This is a brand new 2018 Chevrolet Traverse, and next to me, a 2001 Pontiac Aztek. On this episode of the Fast Lane Car, we're comparing old versus new. So why are we even comparing these two? The Aztek, of course, is a lot smaller than the new Traverse, and it's also a Pontiac which doesn't exist anymore. Well, we're really here to demonstrate the improvements and the changes that GM has made over the years to its crossover line. The Aztek was one of the first modern crossovers produced by General Motors, and the Traverse for 2018 is brand new and represents the best that GM has to offer. Now, I'm not going to go too much into design. I'm sure you all have your strong opinions toward the Aztek. I certainly think the Traverse is a much better looking vehicle. Check this out though, this is kind of funny. The Aztek has this really polarizing dual grille design. It's got these nostrils up top and then the grille down here. Funny enough, the new Traverse kind of has something similar going on with its front end as well. You can see this design element where the grille is kind of separated into two parts. Coming around to the back, there's not a lot to compare back here either. They're just so different. Now the Aztek, in my opinion, was designed to look a lot more car-like, a lot more sporty than the new Traverse. The new Traverse really just feels like a truck. They've really gone out of their way to make it kind of angular, make it much more aggressive, especially when compared to the old Traverse. But there is an impact. Of course, the Aztek was based on the U-Body series of minivan, and we can see one advantage of that: loading height. Ground to the top of the bumper is just 20 inches with the new Traverse. Approximately 27 inches, so we have a 7-inch higher liftover height with the Traverse. In both the Aztek and the Traverse, you'll find a transversely mounted V6. In the Aztek, it's a 3.4 liter that develops 185 horsepower. In the Traverse, it's a 3.6 liter that develops 310 horsepower. The Aztek makes about 54 horsepower per liter. The Traverse is 86 horsepower per liter. So noticeable improvements with the power. Now transmissions are very different as well. The new Traverse has a 9-speed automatic. The Aztek, you just get that 4-speed slush box, and both are available in all-wheel or front-wheel drive. This Aztek motor is pretty underpowered for how big of a vehicle it is, but it should be said, 190-some thousand miles later, this engine is still running strong and running well. Albeit after a head gasket or two, a couple intake manifold gaskets. So yeah, it's had a lot of work done to it. Now coming along to the side of the Traverse, you'll notice both vehicles have a roof rack. Both vehicles have this C-pillar that slopes toward the front end, which is pretty cool. I really do like what they did with the design on this 2018 model Traverse, especially these wheels. These are 20-inch wheels and they look great. But those 15-inch wheels on the Aztek do provide a really supple ride, and that's something I really do miss with older vehicles. Talking about utility with this Traverse Premium, of course, power liftgate and tons of room in the trunk. Even behind the third row, which I think you'll find is pretty easy to put up and down. We also have some pretty cool storage cubbies back here and a USB outlet for the third row passengers. The sloping rear end on the Aztek does take up a lot of potential utility, but there is one feature I really like and wish that all modern crossovers had. Take a look at this. It's not this dual pane glass lift back, but it is a tailgate. I think that's such a cool feature. There's less storage compartments and cubbies in the 2001 Aztek. We do, however, have a air pump for things like bicycle tires. You can just turn that on and you're ready to go. And we also have speakers back here with supplemental radio controls if you want to listen to your tunes while you're tailgating, on these built-in tailgate chairs with cup holders. So not as much usability back here, but a lot more kind of fun and quirky features. One other weird quirk I really just don't like about the Aztek, and it just drives me crazy for some reason, the exhaust isn't to the left, it isn't to the right, and it certainly isn't in the center. It's kind of in this weird off middle position. I don't know why they did that. The Traverse has a pretty meaty looking set of dual exhausts. It is really cool to see how far the GM interiors have come within the last couple of decades. This Aztek was not an inexpensive model. It was a top of the line GT, quite an expensive car in its day, but even still, it's just a sea of really hard plastics. It needs to be said though, well wearing. With over 190,000 miles, everything still really works as it should. None of the buttons have fallen off. It's in pretty good shape in here. You can see though, the technology is no comparison. This would have been the top of the line entertainment system, which included a CD player and premium sound, which does work pretty well, it needs to be said. The sound system is good in this car. Once again, the door is all hard plastics. The buttons are kind of chintzy. But once again, you know, they've proven they've worked well over 17 years and almost 200,000 miles, so that's something. I am a big fan of these leather captain chairs you find in the front of the Aztek. Super comfortable, super cushy. The heating system works really well. And you can't forget about the Aztek heads-up display, which the new Traverse doesn't have. The new interior of this Traverse is just a great place to spend time. I could really see myself taking a long road trip in this SUV. First off, take a look at this. Soft touch leather-like materials all across the dash. It's not just black plastics. We also have chrome accents in just the right places, this nice piano black finish, and technology-wise, the new Traverse just knocks the Aztek out of the park. Of course, we've got the usual suspects, heated and cooled seats, we've got dual zone climate controls that are automatic, we've got this big touchscreen display, and this Traverse has no fewer than 7 USB ports. I count 7 USB ports in this 2018 model. We also have this little funny terrain response dial, which is funny it's here because this Traverse is front wheel drive, but there's still a snow mode if you so desire. Traditional shifter with manual selection. Now the back seat of the Traverse, the second row, I've got these two big captain's chairs, very supportive, very comfortable, with armrests built in. I've got automatic climate control for the rear seats. I've got heated second row rear seats. I've got a power outlet, more USBs than I could figure out what to do with. Really a cool place to spend time. And I even have a third row. That Traverse is over 20 inches longer than this 01 Aztek. But the rear seat legroom and headroom aren't really all that different for the second row, which is interesting. In the Aztek I have about an inch less headroom, about half an inch less legroom, but it feels a lot more claustrophobic back here in the Aztek than in that Traverse. Part of that is this super weirdly contoured seat. It's not comfortable at all. It's exactly curved in all the wrong areas. Take a look at this bottom cushion. It's just massive compared to the back cushion. So it really sticks out much farther in my opinion than it needs to go. It's got really no support anywhere, just not a good back seat. So as equipped, this Traverse Premier with front wheel drive comes in at about $46,000. The Aztek, this one with all the options and all-wheel drive adjusted for inflation probably would have been somewhere around 40 grand. So obviously this is not an apples to apples comparison. If I were to do this correctly, I'd probably have something like the Envoy or the Trailblazer here. I don't have that obviously, so I'm comparing what I got, which is the Aztek, certainly one of GM's most polarizing designs, and one of their first crossovers as well. So it's a great way to compare with the new Traverse, which is the latest and greatest of GM crossovers. The truth is I really do like this vehicle. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it's pretty refined, it can carry a lot, but compared to the new Traverse, it's so outclassed in every way. The Traverse is faster, it's more powerful, it gets up to 27 miles per gallon in the highway, it has more room, it has more tech, it's got more safety equipment. In every imaginable metric, the Traverse is better. However, there is one way that the Aztek can redeem itself. Oh yeah, that's right, the Aztek has a cooler and of course the infamous Aztek tent. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Fast Lane Car. Be sure to stay tuned for more old versus new. See you next time.